Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. What prompted you to resign from your job on the spot? Part 3. When I graduated from high school, I got a job at a tanning salon and kept working there until the start of college. It was easy going, I made good sales, and I could do my homework when things were slow. When I moved closer to campus, I got a job at a different tanning salon and did some other work on the side. The owners of this new tanning salon were a married couple who were absolutely awful. Some fun things that took place. The worker was always being watched by cameras. It was your job to find things to do when things were slow. It wouldn't have been a big deal if you had laundry to do, things to clean, or your daily inventory checks to do. Even if you had already done all of those things and were just standing there because you had nothing else to do, they would call you and yell at you asking, "Have you done X, Y, or Z?" You would say yes, but they would still yell at you and tell you to start making sales calls. You also couldn't read a book or do your homework even if you were done with work and no one was there. After that, they began making sales calls. Every shift, you had to call at least 20 happy customers and try to get them to come in and buy a package. Customers were mad at us, and I can understand why. At the end of each shift, we had to call the owners and tell them how much money we made. They yelled at us if we didn't get at least $100 from each person who came in. Even if a customer only bought a package, we had to try to sell them more. There were a lot of bad reviews on this, and everyone knew it was the owner's fault. They put on fake contests. That is, they would tell people who bought raffle tickets that they had a chance to win a package. They made a lot of money, but no one ever won the raffle. They would call you over and over if they couldn't see you on any cameras. This happened more than once when I went to the bathroom. They were mad that I left, but when I told them I was just in the bathroom for 3 minutes, they wouldn't say sorry or admit they were wrong. It was strange. They made us wear certain clothes and hold up advertising signs at a busy intersection nearby, which wasn't part of our job description and was pretty embarrassing when guys were honking their horns at you and making a scene. They started asking us to put business cards on people's cards in the CVS parking lot next door, and they would often ask us after we had already left work. He asked me to do it after I turned in my time one time because my parents were meeting me for a late lunch. It took me about 15 minutes of grumpy and stupid work. He called my cell phone while I was having lunch with my parents and yelled at me that he went by CVS and didn't see many cars with the marketing card. People don't stay at CVS for long, so it's likely that they were different cars, but I was shocked enough to not say anything. They called all the girls there names like dumb, stupid, bad at sales, and so on. One Halloween, I worked the morning and afternoon shifts, while another girl worked the evening shifts. I had plans for tonight. The girl didn't show up or answer the phone. I told my boss I had to leave at 5 p.m., which was several hours after my shift ended. She told me I would be fired if I didn't work all day until 9 p.m. My stupid self worked from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., and I think I missed my plans. She tried to do this to me when I had tickets to a Muse concert and someone didn't show up for their shift and I said no, so the manager begrudgingly covered the shift. I remember some more, but they're no longer in business. When I told her I got a new job, she told me not to take the better paying job at a medical office because I can make more there if I was better at sales. P.S. I made the most money at my old salon because I didn't have to try to sell people more every time they came in. I worked at a Radio Shack cell phone booth in the mall when I was in my early 20s. One night I locked up and all of our phones were locked in the cabinets that were built into the kiosk. When I start my shift the next day, the manager tells me that most of our stock has been stolen. There were no signs of breaking in except for a pair of pliers lying on the ground next to the kiosk. I felt bad that phones were lost overnight, so I did everything I could to help, but we had no idea what had happened. After some time, my boss asks me to work at another store for a shift. I get there, and a big, mean loss prevention manager tells me to meet him in the food court. He then accuses me of felony theft, saying that I stole about $20,000 worth of phones. He tells me that they won't charge me if I just admit it. I'll be fired and I can move on with my life. I was mad because I knew I hadn't stolen anything, so I told him to either call the police and arrest me right then and there or go F himself. They suspended me and I was unemployed for about a month until one morning my manager came in and found an old employee who kept a key to the cabinets loading phones from our kiosk into a box. Someone else told me this and I had to call the general manager for the region to find out more. She unsuspended me and I came in for a shift next day, clocked in, and gave them my 2 weeks' notice. When Radio Shack went out of business, I had a beer that night. I worked at a grocery store, which was my first job in customer service that wasn't basically babysitting for money. In the beginning, this guy taught me how to use the register. During lunch on the first day, I told him about my anxiety and how this was a big change for me and my first job working with people. I talked a little bit about my mental health issues. I didn't go into too much detail or anything. I was just being too honest, as I often am. I quickly learned how to do the job. In the end, they even promoted me to lead cashier or front runner, whatever they called it. I did pretty well, though. Then again, a few months after that, the guy who trained me was made manager. It turns out he never forgot what we talked about during the first break. I will never understand what I did to him to warrant what he did to me over the last few months I worked there, but he showed his true colors the moment he was moved up, and he had some kind of issue with mental health treatment and mental illness, which became blatantly obvious. From the moment he became manager, he pointed out every mistake I had made during my whole year there instead of focusing on the good things. He told the boss that I should go back to being a regular cashier because I clearly couldn't handle the stress of being in the lead. This didn't bother me too much because I was going to go back to school. But they made me train someone to take my place. Other coworker asked me what the manager had done because he had just told the replacement to keep an eye on OP. She doesn't do anything right on the day I was doing this. That really was the last straw. Right then, there was a panic attack. I ran to the time clock, punched out, and then screamed, "I quit," as I threw my badge at him and left. I didn't go back to that store. Later, after a few years, the whole chain closed. What is your silliest and most ridiculous HOA story? Part 3. I'm not from the US and we don't have HOAs where I live, but my condo does have a resident committee. Think that power outages and HOAs are bad? Just think about how much worse it is for a committee whose only job is to plan cheap potlucks on holidays like Christmas and New Year's Day. Our condo has its own management team that takes care of any real problems. The committee's main job is to make the more vocal residents happy because they want to feel like they have a voice, even though they don't really need one since everyone gets along. The last president of this weak-kneed committee was a jerk who tried to use his power to get things done. I had never seen anything so sad. He thought that all apartments should have to follow some pointless rule about plants, so he came up with a long list of rules like plants can't grow taller than X feet and other things. This made no sense at all because the value of our home isn't based on how nice it looks, so there's no need to make it look nicer. We can pay full-time gardeners to take care of the plants every day. If asked, they will even help residents with their own plants. Anyway, everyone just ignored it because they thought it was a stupid idea. Half of the people who were there to talk about this stupid rule got up and left. It was against the law to enforce these strict rules anyway, according to the management. Since he felt like his balls had shrunk even more, he decided to take matters into his own hands and walk around the condo every day with a pair of gardening shears. If he saw any plants that he thought weren't up to par, he would just cut them off without thinking. That way, a ton of very pretty plants were hurt. I think someone called the police on him, but since no one had thought to film him doing it, nothing could be done. The police just gave him a warning. He stopped, though, because it scared him. I guess the kind of people who turn into H at the slightest hint of power are also the kind whose spines turn into jelly at the slightest hint of danger. This is likely to be forgotten, but I hate HOAs, so here it is. I rented a house in a nice neighborhood with a roommate and his wife. Because my driveway was so steep, I used to park my car on the street because I was afraid the bumper would get scraped. While I was sleeping one night, a big sticker was stuck on the window of the car next to the driver. It said I had been parking illegally. When I tried to peel it off, the adhesive was so strong that it was like putting Gorilla Glue directly on the sticker. I had to buy something to get it off. When I finally found the HOA's email address, they never gave me theirs when I was a renter, I emailed them and asked why the sticker was on my car. I was told that at night you can't park on the street. It was rude of me to tell them not to touch my car ever again because the street was public and in our state it was illegal to do so. But I checked to see how far my bumper could go and found that I could park in the driveway without any more problems. After less than a week, we started getting fines for things like trees that weren't trimmed, grass that was too long, string lights on the porch that weren't allowed, and other things. I emailed the HOA and asked for a copy of the bylaws because I hadn't been given them. They told me they couldn't give it to me because I wasn't the owner of the house. I then called the rental managers and asked for the owner's information. I told them I needed to talk to the owner to get a copy of the bylaws. They told me they couldn't give me the number to call the owners. When I took this information back to the HOA, they told me again that they couldn't give it to me and that I owed money and fines that were past due. Then I looked up local and state laws and learned that if a renter is not given the property's bylaws, they are not responsible for following the HOA's rules or paying any fines that are given for breaking those rules. I told my HOA this and told them I wouldn't be answering any more emails or notices and wouldn't be taking care of any violations because I wasn't legally responsible. They were never heard from again, and I never had to do yard work for them again. We found out that the owner moved back in after we left, and they probably had a great time paying those stupid HOA fines. This HOA was nice and easy to understand. Everyone in the HOA was there because they were asked to be, even though they knew it would be hard work. Stopped a neighbor from putting up a 10-foot satellite dish. They got mad at one who didn't take care of his yard, so they ripped out the grass and put bark in its place. Looked good. They annoyed one neighbor, but no one else, so it was fine. It was always this way, no matter who was president or treasurer. Then there was one woman who was very eager to act as president. She wrote a newsletter every month and taped it to everyone's door. In case they missed the first one, she also emailed them. It was mostly full of things that were against the rules of the HOA. She checked out and snuck in on everyone who was having work done on their roofs or sidings right away, even if everything was legal. The roofer on our house was almost done when we scared him away. He never came back. The people who were working on the siding of our house were yelling at her to stop until they got some information from us. They came back 4 days after being told the crazy woman wasn't going to return. I knew that's what she did with our house. Some of my neighbors had it worse than I did. But that wasn't as bad as the new rules and restrictions, as well as the huge new fines that were coming our way. All of this was done so that the HOA would be in line with a company that would take over and run the HOA. There was a $60 fine if trash cans could be seen from the street in any way. For the second time, the house was liened. Another fine was given if trash cans were not taken away from view 2 hours after they were picked up. Another fine would be given if your lawn had dead grass or empty spots. Another fine was given if your car was seen as unsightly and wasn't in a garage. If your loud car is running early in the morning, you'll get another fine. It's okay if you didn't mow your lawn often. It's okay if your guests park on the street instead of in your driveway. They talked about a lot of these things as if she had a long list of things in the neighborhood that makes her mad. This sounds like something an old lady would do, but she was in her 50s and had 3 kids. She kept saying that running the HOA was making her tired, and the whole neighborhood was too. The neighborhood's HOA met. All of her ideas were turned down. The deal with this HOA company was turned down. No one was to contact them again, and new officers were elected. She tried to run for president, but received only 1 vote from herself. As it was before her, someone else was asked to run and reluctantly accepted. She sold her house a year after that. If you want to watch the part 2, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.